Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 79 of the Crochet Circle podcast. I am waving. How are you all doing? I am back from my summer break. I hope you've all had like a fab holiday and been away if you've been able to get away and just enjoyed like the holiday. It's a bit of a weird one today. I'm just gonna have to come straight out and say that unfortunately this is going to be my last ever podcast, and there's no easy way to say that other than to just deliver it straight off the bat. So yeah, episode 79, I'm sad to say, is going to be the last one. It's something that I've thought really long and hard about over like the summer months and a little bit before, and it feels like it's time. I want to be able to put my time to slightly different use, so I'm not going to disappear. Like, a lot of the content that I produce is not going to disappear. I just would love it to be a little more concentrated, and I would love to be able to deliver more value for our community, for our crocheting community, in smaller bite-sized chunks, and that's what I'm looking to do. So sad news off the top of the podcast, but what I'm going to do is do this as a final podcast as usual, and then towards the end I'll tell you what it is that I plan to be up to and where you'll be able to find me, and generally kind of what my thinking is. And you know, it's a movable feast. I'm not saying I'll never come back and podcast, but for the foreseeable future, I'm not going to be doing long form video and audio podcasts. So more on that in a little bit. But for now, let's give you another podcast. Let's bring the energy back up rather than just being all sad about it. So, would you like to see what I've been up to this summer? Would you like to hear about what I've been up to? I've managed to do quite a lot of crochet. I'm under, since about June probably, and until the end of October, I'm on massive deadlines for commissions and trying to get patterns out. I'm just really tasking myself with working on patterns, most of which are crochet, and some are for external things like magazines, I can't really talk about, and some are things that I've been working with yarn suppliers, yarn producers, and I can talk to you about some of those. So I am just on like deadline at the moment, and I have really been going at it on that side of things throughout this summer. I've spent many an hour outside listening to audiobooks, enjoying the shade of the sun. We've got some nice big mature trees in the garden, and I can just sit under them with a cat underneath my chair, and we sit there listening to audiobooks, and I sit and work on crochet designs. So that's been quite a lot of my nice summer days. So let's show you what I've been making. I think in the last podcast, which seemed like months and months and months ago, even though it was only 2 months ago, I showed you and talked about some yarn that I was working with, some wool really, from Northern Yarn, and there was quite a bright jade colour 4-ply called Methra, and that is 350 metres per 100 grams, and it's a mix of British wools, Cheviot, Blueface Leicester BFL, Shetland and Svartbles. So I was working up a design on that, but I was also working up a design using Kate at Northern Yarn's other base, which is DK, which is called Mamo, which comes in 50 gram like hanks, I suppose, and that is a really good standard DK, and it's 110 metres for 50 grams, so 220 for 100 grams. And again, it's British wool, and it is it's not telling me what they are here, but I know one of them is Poole Dorset, and I can't remember what the other one is. And so I've been working away with these, and what Kate approached me and said that she'd seen my stuff in Moorit, and I've known Kate for a long time. She'd seen my stuff in Moorit, and she wondered if I would be interested in creating a design in her wool. And I really love what Kate does. She's very specific about going out into her local area, so that's Cumbria and Lancashire, up in the northwest of England, and going and finding British breed, specific shape, and then making them into wool that we can use as crafters. And I love that. You know, I'm here to support that all day long. So the design concept that I came up with, I didn't specifically come up with for this yarn. It started out way back in the day when I was in that temporary accommodation when we were moving house. I was trying to create a ribbed effect that would work at the bottom of my positivity spiral hat. And it didn't just quite have the stretch that I wanted for the hat, but I kept this tiny little sample that I had made because I really loved the ribbed effect that I'd got with it. And it's using front post trebles, and I've managed to get it on a diagonal. So I started by making up the cowl in the DK, which I've done as a short cowl, so one that you can just go over your head and keeps really nice up and close to your neck. I enjoy wearing cowls like this because then I can put my big winter coat on, my neck is nice and warm, and if the wind really starts biting, I can kind of bury my nose in it and keep nice and warm. So I wear cowls like this quite a lot. So I worked up the small version in the DK in this beautiful silvery colour. And then when I worked on the 4-ply version in the Methra, I wanted to do it in a slightly longer version. And what I've done is taken the concept of the diagonal front posts and I've blended them with straight front posts. So you've got this kind of straight, right slant, straight, right slant, straight effect to the cowls. And I really love the texture with it because it's a nice repetitive pattern, but as with all of these things, diluting down to something that looks simple and elegant is quite often the hardest thing that you can do as a designer, and writing the pattern can be really quite difficult. It's like the essence of something simple takes so much work to get it into something that's usable because you're just paring back. It's never as easy as you think it's going to be. So the idea is these cowls will be in 3 different sizes. So you've got the close-up one, the longer one that I'm wearing, which kind of comes pretty much down to maybe just above my chest, and then there's a third length which is really long, which you can double over or just wear long, and the pattern will cover the 3 sizes in the 2 weights. So one pattern, a bit like Positivity Spiral does with the cowl, one pattern will give you 6 different options basically, depending on how much wool you've got, what weight of wool you've got, and how you like your cowl to be. So it's all been weighted and measured out for you and ready to go. So I knew when I'd sorted the cowl that I also wanted to do mittens, because the idea, although I'd already had the stitch pattern defined, when I worked out that I could do it straight, going to diagonal, back to straight, going to diagonal, it really reminds me of the dwarven concept artwork that you've got for Lord of the Rings when you're going into Mines of Moria. I am a huge Lord of the Rings Tolkien fan, really enjoy that, and the movies. We'll not talk about The Hobbit because as a movie, but I really enjoyed the concept artwork, all the creativity that went behind the scenes for the artists that were making the sets, and that is what this stitch pattern reminds me of, like a cross between runes and like the mines and the column and just the angular nature of all of their artwork. So that then took me down a little rabbit hole, and I found on the internet that you can find dictionaries of dwarven words. Like there are whole dwarven dictionaries out there. So I pulled together a load of names and I took them to Kate and I said, what would you like the design to be called? And we both liked one in particular, which is called Fern. So that's F-A-E-R-N, Fern. And that means home. And that just felt rather appropriate for the way that Kate goes out and gathers all the wool, all the fleeces, and brings it home and makes wool out of it. It speaks to like the act of sitting in your home and making the thing that you want to wear, you want to give to somebody. It felt like a very appropriate name for it. So we have the Fern cowls, and then there are also the mittens, which I am so pleased about. So I've talked about the fact that with the cowls everything goes on a right slant. Well, then obviously with mittens I had to work out how to do a left slant. So when you put your mittens on, one mitten slanted to the right and the other mitten slanted to the left. And so that's what I did. And you know me, because I can't just do one thing. I've also written the pattern and given instructions for how you can make the mittens into fingerless gloves as well, because not everyone loves mittens, and frankly if you're going to write up a mitten pattern you may as well give instructions for fingerless gloves, because it's just subtracting some of the rows that you would have to do and giving a nice finish. So excuse the ends that I am quickly pulling in, but what I'm showing up is quite a well-fitted mitten, which is what I like. So I don't think it's got any ease at all. If it has some, it's very little. And it's in the silver DK yarn. So on my right hand I've got a fingerless glove, and you can really obviously see the diagonal slant on that, and on my left hand I've got a fully formed mitten. I love it. It's really warm and toasty, and just the way that the diagonal front posts go, love it, love it, love it. I'm going to do more of this in patterns, because I think this needs to be a bag and I think it needs to be a shawl. I'm really pleased with how such a simple stitch came together in a pattern. So the other thing that I've done with the mittens, because obviously I've done the mittens for fingerless gloves and mittens in DK and in 4-ply, and I've done it over 6 sizes. So I'm currently holding up a little smaller one. Excuse me. So I'm wearing what is size 3, which is roughly a medium. I've got odd sized hands, which I'll tell you about in a moment. And then I also quickly whipped up the next size down, which would be like a small adult, but I also tried it on a 10-year-old at the weekend, and it fitted him perfectly. So it works for children, and then there's a smaller size again, which would work for kind of 5 years old plus, depending on the size of hand of the child. So again, it's easy to change the instructions on this one, because I have got the circumference of a medium-sized hand, I have got the length of an extra large hand, and I have got the thumb the size of a child, apparently, according to like all the measurements and charts that are out there. So I've written the pattern so that you can customize it depending on like what you need from it, basically, because people don't have the same size hands. It's just not what happens. So yeah, these are all coming out. When are they coming out, Faye? These are coming out and being launched for Yarn Deal, which is the 3rd or the last weekend of September. So towards the end of September, these will be ready. My lovely tech editor Deb already has the cowls. She'll be getting the mittens by Friday. And just to show you how they both work up, I also this morning finished off the little 4-ply version of the small size, so they are the same size. So I'm so pleased with how these are working up. And again, on the diagonal, really cute little mittens. All of these are being sent to Kate, so she'll have them for Yarn Deal, and then she'll have them in her shop. So I'm eyeing up making myself a pair with 4-ply and floof, because I can imagine how warm they would be, and just the fuzz of the floof of the front post stitch would just be like out of this world, I think. So I'm going to be making up another pair of these for me. When I've made my, how many have I got now? 4. I've got another 2 to make, so I will have made 6 individual gloves by the time I finish this pattern. But well worth it, because like, I don't see the point in just making a pattern that says a glove is choose small, medium, large. That's like an irrelevance to people in the way that hands are shaped and sized, and it just doesn't work like that. So I want you to be able to extend it, shorten it, add more, do what you need to do within the Fern mittens pattern. So that's what I'm working towards at the moment. I'm deep in pattern writing. So yeah, that's quite a nice chunky little pile of stuff that I have been working on this summer with a deadline of Friday. So as soon as I've edited this, I am back onto knitting, into mitten crocheting. So yeah, have a look for them. They will all be coming in September. It's a bit like Positivity Spiral. It's a really good value pattern because it's easy to memorise once you've got the hang of where the stitches are going, and it gives you really good options. So it's the kind of pattern that you can buy once, make it for loads of other people. If you've got children, you can make it for your children going up through their like childhood as well, and for the rest of your family. Oh, how much would I love to see an entire family's worth of crocheted Fern mittens and cowls, and like an entire family wearing them. I would love to see that. If anyone fancies it, I would love to see it. I'll send you the pattern. I would love to see it. So that's one of the major things that I have been working on. I've also been writing an article, quite a big article, so I've been on that. That's seen me going here, there and everywhere, visiting people in our industry, so that's been a lot of fun this summer as well. Spent quite a lot of time in the car listening to audiobooks and Brené Brown and all sorts of things. So what else? Another little finished object that I have is, do you remember me talking to you about the craft pod and the fact that I was desperate to get my hands on the 2021 winter one? I was given a tip off by a lovely friend that they had put some on their website, and that there was one for me. And I got on there straight away and went and bought it and sewed up using woolen felt a gorgeous little scissor holder, which is in the shape of an owl, and I adore it. It is one of the cutest things I think I've ever sewn. And I say that every time I've done a craft pod thing, but honestly, this little owl scissor case with the holes for the scissors are the eyes of the owl is just beautiful. Whoever dreamt this up is like creatively amazing. I just think it's a beautiful thing to have in my crafting kit. So that was another little finished object that I have managed. And I'm going to go straight into kind of en route because one of them relates to this. The other thing that they had in that crafting kit was an owl embroidery, and I didn't want to just have the embroidery in a hoop because it's not. I've got a couple already displayed in the house, but I don't want my whole house to be embroidery hoops with embroideries inside out on display. And I know I could swap them in and out, but I quite like practical things. So I did the embroidery, and I had some spare calico, and I thought I really want to have a go at English paper piecing. Some friends have been doing it at the craft club that I run, and I figured I could do something else with it. And so I did the embroidery of an owl in flight with the moon in the background, and a kind of creamy white calico, which is meant to be snow, and some trees have been embroidered onto it. And what I've done is English paper pieced around the embroidery using hexagon shapes, and then some rectangles to border it off, and this is going to become a project bag. So it'll be one of those with like the cords at the top that I can pull it tight rather than adding a zip into it. And it'll be like a, a square bottom bag at the bottom. So the bottom of the bag will be the bottom of the snow with this owl on one side. And then on the other side I have been English paper piecing with some colours that I got from my local sewing shop in Nantwich. What will hopefully look like sunset. That was the kind of concept behind it, is that it would look like the sun. And so it's in a light pink, darker pink, and then into a real dusky purpley blue, and up into navy, and the same navy that I've used for the EPP around the owl. So this is the back side of the bag, and at some point I will sew it all together and I will put it up on Instagram and show you what I've made with it. But I really enjoyed English paper piecing during the summer. It's a very small project to take out, like it's not heavy, you don't have to take loads of supplies out with you. It's literally a few bits of cut out material and needle and thread and a pair of scissors, and that's it. And it's got a lovely rhythm to it, and it's quite precise work if you want it to be, which suits my nature. I like being really precise with my crafting, and I enjoyed it. And there is like a lot of controversy around English paper piecing EPP as to whether you are a purist and you sew and you tack, or I went down the other route and I was using the specific glue and the pre-cut shapes because I don't have loads of time and I want to just be able to go at something. So I was using glue and then blanket stitch to do mine. And I've still got the paper pieces in some of the bits until I've sewn on the next panel. So if you've been eyeing up English paper piecing and you wanted to have a go at it, it is really easy and enjoyable, and I would encourage you to have a trial. And if you're not that confident with your sewing, then I think that the glue is a really good option. It comes away. It's not something that's really sticky on your fabric. It comes away and you can just remove the piece of paper afterwards, but it keeps it stable while you're working on it. So it's definitely one that I will use again. And one of the reasons I fell down this kind of EPP rabbit hole is because next month I'm starting a quilting course. It's a 3-night course at the same sewing shop that I bought the cotton from. I'm really excited about that because I am hankering to make a big quilt for our bed upstairs. Our bedroom is done out in like mid-century modern colours, so it's got quite a bright pumpkin orange as the feature wall, and the rest of the walls are in quite a bright dark blue, and it's really quite striking. And I just think if we had a mid-century modern quilt in those same colours, our bedroom, that would just finish the bedroom off. I don't want to buy one, I want to make one, but I want to have the tuition to know that I'm going to be doing it right from the beginning, and that I've got somebody there to give me like the guidance that I want to say, you're doing this right, your points could be better, you're not doing this quite right on your sewing machine. So that is coming. I'm going to be learning how to quilt. That's my winter learning thing. I always love to learn new crafts, new techniques, whether that's within crochet or knitting, whatever it is. I just love to soak up knowledge and to be able to have like another craft under my belt, and that this year's winter sporting programme is quilting. So I will be on that. But I will show you my little owl bag when I have finished it over on Instagram and let you see, and probably in my Mighty Networks as well, because I'm really excited about it. Although it has been put to the side for the last couple of weeks while I'm in deadline hell. But yeah, if you haven't given it a go, There's so many videos on YouTube directing you towards supplies. It's a great way of using up little scraps of material as well, or if you've got something that you're going to throw out but some of the material is still good, then the bits that aren't good can go for rags and the rest can be used for things like English paper piecing. It's a great little reuse project. So I have another en route for you, and it's only an en route because I haven't finished the very bottom of it, but I really wanted to share my Positivity Spiral jumper with you. I am finally at the bottom of it. How many times have I frogged this back? I frogged it back about a week ago, right up to under the bust again, because I just wasn't happy with one of the details. And I just got back down to where I needed to be and a little bit more on Sunday. So I'm feeling quite good about it again. But the short sleeved version is almost finished. The plan with Positivity Spiral, again, because I just can't help myself, is to offer a short sleeve version and a long sleeve version. Details for if you want to decrease under the bust, or if you don't and you want to come straight off the bust, so you'll know what your yarn requirements are either way. And if you don't like doing crocheted ribbing, then the first finish that I have done is a much simpler kind of stitch that almost looks a little bit like an I-cord edging. So for now I have applied that to the cap sleeves, to the collar, and I will be applying it to the bottom rib as well. So you'll have an option for a really simple finish on all of the I wanted to say orifices, it's not an orifice. On all of the openings, like where your sleeve openings are, where your collar opening is, and where the waist is. Maybe that's some new pattern terminology. Work around the collar orifice. So the plan is I will add the last little bit onto this, then I will photograph it modelled as a short sleeve version, and then I frog back those details. I put the long sleeves on it and I add the ribbed version, so that within the pattern you'll be able to see what it looks like with the ribbing as well, and then it's up to you. So you'll be able to like pick and mix whichever elements of the pattern you want. For now I'm going to put it on, which, like, I've got a dress on. It's probably going to look horrendous with this dress, but I just want to show you the detail for if you're big busted, what a difference having the decreases makes coming under your bust for a more fitted form. Oh, okay, it fits over my dress. This is good. So, short sleeve version is coming off the yoke and just about an inch down from there. And I have done decreases in under my bust. Let me just move to my side so you can see it. So it's really quite fitted, coming under the bust, and then it goes straight down. I haven't blocked this yet, so like it might look a little bit bumpy in places, but I am so pleased with the fit that I managed to get around the yoke. It took me 3 attempts to do that. Like, this jumper has been a major learning curve, but I am so on it with garment design now that this is where a lot of my learning has to be. And so that's what I have been up to, basically. Making frogging a Positivity Spiral jumper. My plan is to have this ready for the end of the year, and I will be looking for test crocheters. So if you fancy it, just like go and follow me over at FADH Designs, because that's where I'll be putting the call out for test crocheters. So if you fancy helping me to bring this pattern to life and making sure that it's tested right the way up through the sizes, I would love that. I would really love your help with this if you fancy test crocheting Positivity Spiral. I'm sure you're maybe not seeing it as well as you can over the film, but But I love the way that the filet pattern swirls have worked up in the yoke of this pattern. It feels good and it feels different. It feels like I've done what I was aspiring to do with my first crocheted garment, which was to provide something that was elegant, well fitted, that you could make it your own, that hopefully can be size and shape inclusive. I know for sure that I can add those elements into the pattern, and that just doesn't look like a lot of the other crochet garments that I see out there. So that's like a major tick. I feel very proud of this jumper, of this sweater, and I'm looking forward to seeing it with sleeves and with the crocheted rib. I'll also be providing details for how you can knit a rib off of it as well, because not everyone loves crocheting rib, and you might still want that rib look, but you don't want to crochet a rib, so I'll provide those details too, because you may as well provide all the details for all the people. Right, too hot, I have to take that off. This is the other thing that's happened this summer, is I am fairly certain I am now going through perimenopause, so like the heat just attacks me, and I'm like, take off all the clothes, my elbows are sweating, I need to be wearing less stuff, so jumper is now off. Look out for Positivity jumper, it will be coming hopefully before the end of the year. I'm going to move on to Feeding the Habit, and there really hasn't been a lot, which is quite surprising because usually I'm very naughty. One of the places that I went to this summer was New Lanark Spinning, which is up in Scotland. It's in the Central Belt, and it's a beautiful old mill complex, and they still make their own wool up there, and they're using it on lovely old machinery called a spinning mule, and I went to have another look at it. I've been there a few times before, but I went back up for work, and I couldn't really walk away. I don't know what's happened, but I'm back into a pink kick. Does anybody else get this? Like, I go through cycles of years of not wearing specific colours, and then like maybe in a 10 to 15 year cycle they'll come back. There was a time maybe 20 years ago when I wore a lot of bright purpley pink, like raspberry pink, and I have not worn this colour for probably, the last thing I can think of is a work dress that I used to wear, so that's probably 10 years ago. And when I got to New Lanark, and they do such beautiful heather tones, I couldn't help myself but buy a ball of each. So there's a bright pink with really heathered flecks of red and green and blue in there, quite subtle though. And then there's a mid rosy pink, which actually has got quite a bit of yellow in it, which probably sounds disgusting, but it's actually quite nice. And then there's a muted heather purple, which has quite a bit of blue in it, and it is a proper heather purple. And I just thought the three of them together were really nice. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I have no plans. I just saw the colours and I liked them, and I wanted to support the mill, and they were on sale, and I was like, let's just have them. They will become something lovely. I don't think it will be a design, I think it will just be something that I'll make for myself. But I don't know of many companies within the UK that produce wool that is this heathered and gets this much like texture into it. They do a really good job of it, and like it's a reasonably soft wool as well, and they do a nice array of colours. Yeah, it's worth having a look at their website because it's quite an affordable British wool. They do some really nice colours. They do DK weight, Aran weight and chunky weight. So they tend towards the heavier end of the wool weights range for the UK. They don't do 4-ply. But if you go and visit, top tip, if you fancy going to New Lanark, and if you're ever going north, you're not that far off the motorway system to get to New Lanark. So if you're heading into Scotland and you want somewhere to stop off, It's a really good place to stop off. At the back of the shop, they always have like this random bookshelf of cones of 4-ply yarn, because their DK is made up of 2 strands of 4-ply. So I suspect that when they don't have enough of something, they just leave it on the cone rather than making a small batch of DK out of it. And you can go to the back of the shop and you can find these cones. So you might get, I did get one while I was there, and I haven't shown you because you'll never be able to get it. It was like a one-off. But I did get a black cone with orange flecks in it, and it was 500 grams of 4-ply yarn for £14. Like, you can get some real bargains in there. Yeah. Go and have a look. Go and have a look at New Lanark and see their gorgeous tweedy wool, and then everything I'm going to make for the rest of this year. I'm like really adhering to this pink. It's pulling me in, and I can do hot pink. It's one of the colours I can actually put close up to my skin. So, more of this in my life. So, quick news bits. The next Global Hookup is going to be on the 10th of September. That will be 8 p.m. UK time. And then again on the Sunday morning, which will be 9 a.m. UK time. It'll be lovely to have you there and to spend time with some lovely fellow crofters from across the world. So let me go from that to say, obviously some of you might be listening to this and going, well, you're still doing global hookups, and the answer is yes. Like, whilst I'm not going to be podcasting, there are elements that we have built up together with the Crochet Circle podcast that I really want to keep, because we have a great community, a great bunch of people, and I want to make sure that that community remains, and if I can, is strengthened. And to that end then, things like global hookups are going to remain, and I'll still be running them once a month. Mighty Networks is staying up. There's no way I would get rid of that. So if you haven't joined that and you want to come in, that's one of the areas of community that I really want to be strengthening and posting in more often. That's one of the things that I would hope for. What it does mean is obviously certain things are not going forward. Most obvious one being monthly recordings of the podcast. And there are a few reasons for that. One, I would like to spend the time that I've got available making a bigger impact if I can. So I'm looking towards blogging and tutorials, but not just like stitch tutorials, but that kind of information that I try to get across, the in-depth stuff that I do within Old Dog New Tricks. I would like to do more of that, where I can do the research and quickly build people's skills in very specific areas. And I'm looking to do that for crochet and for knitting as well, because quite often there's a crossover between the two things, but predominantly crochet. So when I do that and it's crochet related, I will still add it over on the Crochet Circle Instagram account, so I'm not going to get rid of that. But I'm not really going to be posting over there much. So if you want to come and find me, the place that you're going to find me day to day is over on my FadyH Designs Instagram account, and also on my FadyH Designs Pinterest account as well. So putting quite a lot of effort into Pinterest. And that's really my hope, is that with the blogs that I do, which I will also be putting up onto YouTube on this channel, that I can really get to the nitty-gritty of our craft, and I can show how things work, but I can do it in a really quite tight format that suits the time that I've got available, and also suits the way that the industry is going. Long form video is not what people want to sit down and listen to. People aren't listening to longer podcasts in the same way anymore either. So whilst all of the previous episodes are going to stay, anything new that I do is going to be on a much shorter format, basically. That said, blogging won't be shorter format. I'm really loving writing long format essays and blog posts, so I'll be doing more of that, but again, like quite informational, hopefully with backup tutorials, information, photos. So really getting stuff in a format where people can like sit down with a cup of tea, read it, get the information in quite a few different formats, but it's just in a shorter burst of time. That's what I'm hoping for. This could all change. Like, this is just where I think I want to head in the coming months, and I'm in like a load of deadlines, as I said, until the end of October, and then after October I'll be working on a new blogging website, and like the tutorials, video tutorials, and what I want them to look like. I've already got an idea, but I need to define what that looks like and make sure that it's the right format. So yeah, I mean, Mighty Networks change, stay, Global Hookups stay. On Instagram, I'll be over towards Fade Designs. The YouTube channel here for the Crochet Circle podcast is where I'm going to host all of the video tutorials, so you might see that it gets a name change to Fade Designs, but the crochet content will still be filtered out as crochet content. So that will have very clear categorization on it. So if you just want crochet, there will just be crochet there. My plan is, when I've got finished objects and things that I'm working on, that will go up into Mighty Networks, and that's where I would be showing that off. So they are my plans at the moment. Like I said, they could all change, but for now, that's where I'm at. I'm really enjoying putting time into design and pushing forward with that element of my working life, and I would like a bit more time for that, which would be lovely. Like I feel really sad that this is the last podcast, but I know it's the right thing to do. I know it's the right thing for me, and I really hope that by changing things up, I can get more information out to more people and really build crochet skills. Like, that is wholeheartedly what I want to do. I've said for many years, if I haven't changed the face of crochet and the way that crochet is perceived by the time I die, I simply haven't worked hard enough. And like, that is still absolutely my goal. I'm 45 now, probably going to retire when I'm 60. I'm never going to retire from crafting, but I really feel like I've got this burning passion. I have got 15 hardcore years of working at the pace that I work now, and I work bloody hard and I work really long hours, but I've got about 15 more years of that, and I want crochet to be taken seriously. I want people to stop taking the mickey out of our craft. I want crochet to be seen for the gorgeous craft that it is, and I am going to be spending some of my time getting that point across in an even more fervent manner. Basically, that's what I'm up to. I'll be trying my damnedest. Whether it works or not, I feel like we've made really good headway with this podcast and with the crochet community and the support, and that we have really helped to change the face of crochet globally, and I think we can do more, and that's where I want to head to. So on that note, it just remains for me to say thank you so much to everybody that has been part of this podcast, that has shared, that has liked, the lurkers that have never left a comment but really appreciate the podcast, the people that have invested financially through Patreon, through Ko-fi, through buying me a coffee, through buying patterns, through every comment, everything that you've ever engaged with. Thank you so much. Like, it genuinely means a lot to me. Community is everything, and the support that you've shown for me and for crochet has been fabulous, and like a wholehearted thank you for that. I do feel really sad and I don't want to cry, but I'm going to go. It has been a pleasure. Come and find me on Instagram over at VDH. I will be in Mighty Networks and I will be on Pinterest, and I would love to continue our crochet journey together in those places. It has been a pleasure, people. I am waving, of course I am waving. Love to you all. Bye bye.